Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLuga. Thank you so much for tuning in here on Thursday, September 19th. NFL football tonight. Jaguars do not play till Monday night, though, against the Buffalo Bills in Buffalo. Talked about that game last night on Club Jaguar. You can go check that out on UCF Jaguars channel. We've talked about it on Disguised Coverage over on the Cover One channel. So we've been getting into it a little bit already. But right now, with some extra time this week, I wanted to talk about kind of a topic that a lot of folks in Duval, a lot of folks in the comment section are talking about. That's the Jaguars offensive line. And should the Jaguars make changes to their offensive line? What changes could they make? So we're going to talk about that here today. To start it off, we're going to try to evaluate exactly what is going on with the offensive line. I think to start, there are communication issues pre-snap from a setting protection standpoint, getting to the line of scrimmage on time, evaluating what's going on in front of you. At least there certainly were against the Browns. I think that's got to be cleaned up between play caller, quarterback, center, the rest of the offensive line. You're not going anywhere if that doesn't get better. I also think some of the assignments beyond the offensive line that are being asked of Jaguars receivers and tight ends just don't make a lot of sense, and the play calling hasn't always made a lot of sense. There's been a handful of plays, certainly against the Browns, that just from a schematic standpoint, from what you're asking someone to do, they just don't make sense. Gabe Davis blocking a defensive lineman, right? The only way to pick up a safety is for Brian Thomas Jr. to shoot across multiple gaps to get to him before he gets in the back. That just doesn't make sense, right? So there's things that just haven't made sense. And until that gets better from a play calling standpoint, it's going to be hard to sit here and look at the offensive line improving. But beyond that, there are individual struggles happening across the offensive line. Cam Robinson did have a very bad day against Myles Garrett, which it's Myles Garrett. You're going to have bad days against Myles Garrett, right? It's tough to deal with him. And if you're just asking Cam Robinson to block Myles Garrett on an island most of the game, that's tough. And I'm not going to blame Cam Robinson for having a tough time with that, not one bit. He did have a couple bad reps late in the game against Miami. And, a couple times he completely whiffed trying to work two linebackers. One was pulling to the right side of the offensive line. One was trying to work to the second level. I think overall, Cam Robinson is doing fine. I do. I don't think he's doing great, but I don't see benching him for these first two games. Again, everybody's going to struggle against Myles Garrett. Looking at left guard Ezra Cleveland, he did have a bad rep against the Browns on that goal line safety, but he's doing fine overall. I think he's been fairly consistent for the Jaguars. I think Mitch Morse is doing well. Obviously, as I mentioned, the communication part of it, I still think that they're cleaning up. And again, a lot of teams seemingly have communication issues against the Cleveland Browns defense. That is a great defensive front. He also didn't have a great rep on that safety, but I think Mitch Morse is doing just fine for the Jacksonville Jaguars. To me, where the personnel issues really are happening right now, it's on that right side of the offensive line. Brandon Sheriff is struggling so far a good bit, both in the run game and in pass pro. It looks like maybe he just doesn't have the physical ability that he did when he first got to Jacksonville, and certainly before that. It's not looking great for Brandon Sheriff. So, Unless things change quickly, rapidly for Sheriff, that could be an area you try to upgrade. Anton Harrison, that's been the biggest surprise, right? He's really struggling both in pass pro and as a run blocker, which he had issues in the run blocking department last year, but was very good as a rookie in pass protection. Very good. So that's frustrating. He did miss a little bit of time in training camp, but, he was able to get out there and played a little bit in the preseason and did have training camp time. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with Anton Harrison. Because I really did expect, a great matchup between him and Jalen Phillips. I didn't know how healthy Jalen Phillips would be, but Phillips looked incredible. And then I expected Anton Harrison, to be able to do a good job last week. He really didn't. So, like, what do you do about this offensive line? What do you do about it? For one, I don't think you make wholesale changes after 2 games. One in which you were playing against a dominant defensive front. Straight up, you were against the Cleveland Browns there. And I know people are like, oh, well, they gave up 33 points to the Cowboys the week before. For one, they had a special teams touchdown. The Cowboys did. 2, the Cowboys defense was completely dominating the Browns offense. And so that makes it difficult for your defense to continue to consistently play well. I think the Browns defense is still going to be one of the best in the league is what I'm trying to tell you here. Now, with the offensive line, continuity is also important and can help the group grow together. And I know no one wants to hear that, but it is true. This is a group that has not played together, right? They've played 2 games. Again, one of them was against a dominant defensive front. And in the other one, they had a decent game outside of the very end of the game when play calling got predictable. And I think the Dolphins knew exactly what you were doing when you were passing the football. It was on 3rd down when you had to throw the ball. So I don't really think the offensive line struggled all that much in week 1. I think they had a bad game against a really good defensive front. But we are talking about potential changes here if things do not improve over the next couple weeks. Quickly did want to tell you all about Underdog Fantasy. Just got to head over to Underdog's Fantasy app. Simple to use mobile app. Or UnderdogFantasy.com. Sign up with promo code Duval Daily, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. I play daily fantasy over there. Got several best ball teams over there as well. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code Duval Daily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783. Text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. So, do you fire the offensive line coach? That's certainly an option. Phil Rauscher's been here for a while. There's been run game problems his entire time he's been here. Is that coming down from the head coach? Is that personnel? Is that on the offensive line coach? That's really tough for me because I see Phil Rauscher coach. I have heard Phil Rauscher talk about offensive line, talk about offense. He seems like a really intelligent, hardworking, good coach. You see him out there on the practice field. He's giving really good individual attention. He's locked in. He's focused on the details. I think Phil Rauscher is a good coach. If I was looking at this and I was making decisions, it wouldn't be fire Phil Rauscher. It wouldn't. Now, I do think another coaching part of this is asking Cam Robinson to consistently get on the move and attack linebackers and safeties the best use of his skill set? Are we asking players to do what they do well consistently? Because that's coaching, right? Like, you can adjust what you're going to try to do with your game plan, with your play calling around what your guys do well. That's good coaching. And that has nothing to do with Phil Rauscher. That has to do with the play calling and schematics of everything. I would not fire Phil Rauscher at this point. One of the reasons I wouldn't fire him, besides the fact that I do think he's a good coach, is the fact that, what are you going to do? Just promote Greg Austin? I don't think that you're going to have some magic solution there. You can always try to make personnel changes. Could Walker Little enter the starting lineup? He's a player would like to see on the field because he's a good football player. I don't think Cam Robinson needs to be benched right now, so I wouldn't put him in at left tackle. I mean, if Anton Harrison wasn't your first round pick last year and you're not talking about the future or anything like that, and I'm as big an Anton Harrison fan as there is, but just objectively, if he was just another guy, you'd be talking about benching him for sure. With the way he's played, it's been really bad. And then right guard, could you plug in Walker Little there? I would not be against it, but follow the money. Brandon Sheriff, that's an expensive football player. Final year of his deal, so I mean, if you're going to start to burn bridges at some point in 2024 is probably the time to do it. But I would like to see Walker Little on the field. I think he would improve the Jaguars' offensive line. I wouldn't mind seeing him at right guard. And then people talk about Cooper Hodges as well. So Cooper Hodges, I really wish he did not sustain that knee injury last year and miss the entire season, because then I think the Jaguars coaching staff would have a better idea of where he is. And I think that he would just be in a better place because honestly, during the preseason, it didn't look great for Cooper Hodges. I think that he's still just adjusting to the NFL, adjusting to coming off that knee injury that kept him out the entire year, required surgery, all that stuff. Like, is he actually ready to enter the lineup? I don't really think so. And after that, there are like no real potential answers. Javon Foster, Jaguars' 4th round pick, he hasn't really worked at guard. I don't think he's going to help you at either tackle position and be better than Anton Harrison or Cam Robinson or even Walker Little, right? So that doesn't make any sense. Like, do you really want to put Luke Fortner in the game on the interior or Cole Van Lannon? What are you going to do? And I know a lot of folks will sit here and be like, well, we wanted the Jaguars to improve the offensive line before the start of the season. And guess what? I did too. I absolutely did. I wanted them to draft an interior offensive lineman. I didn't want them to draft a tackle necessarily because I believed in Anton Harrison, and I thought whatever combination of Cam Robinson and Walker Little would be fine for 2024. Obviously, the tackle play needs to be a little better, especially on the right side. I think anybody, though, that watched Anton Harrison last year would have been excited about him going into year 2, and I still am excited about him moving forward, but he's got to play better. I say you keep trying to coach it up and improve on what's been going on here because, again, these guys haven't played much together. They did have an incredibly tough matchup last week. They don't have an easy matchup over the next couple weeks. Buffalo Bills. Ed Oliver is a beast on the interior. Von Miller's playing well. Gregory Rousseau is playing well. They still have AJ Epinesa, who he had the game of his life against the Jaguars in London last year. They've got depth. They've got upfront talent. I don't think that they're as good as the Browns. I don't. Defensively, especially up front. Really, the whole unit. Like, the Browns just have a better defense. But it's not an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. And then the Houston Texans, we all know what they have on the defensive side of the ball. So I say keep coaching it up. Try to establish more continuity. Try to establish more communication pre-snap and post-snap. Working to improve. The first move I would potentially make here that we've talked about again is trying to get Walker Little in the game. Probably at right guard. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop. Pick up some new Duval gear like the hat I'm wearing right now. Become a channel member here on YouTube. Y'all have a good one.